At a school where power belonged to the strong, every weaker student had to live in fear. But when a powerful bully dared to lay his hands on a 12-year-old girl, he had no idea that her older brother carried a secret, a strength forged over many years under the guidance of a former professional boxer. The question is, can an ordinary student stand up not only against a bully, but also against the system that has protected him for so many years? And what will happen when the truth finally erupts? Before we begin, let us know where you're watching this video from. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the dramatic and inspiring stories we bring to you every day. Riverton High School sat at the center of a small town in the American South. From the outside, it looked like any other school: long hallways, faded blue lockers, and a basketball court that was always alive with the sound of sneakers and cheering. But inside, nothing was fair. Here, the rules weren't written in books. They were enforced by those who held power in the shadows. And the one who held the most power was none other than Bradley Whitaker, the son of the town's sheriff. Bradley wasn't just an ordinary bully. He treated tormenting others as a form of amusement. He was shielded by his father's name, a man no one in town dared to cross. Anyone bold enough to stand up to Bradley soon learned the consequences: public humiliation, group beatings, or worse, expulsion under the excuse of being a troublemaker. Every student at Riverton High knew the unwritten rule: if you wanted peace, stay away from Bradley and his crew. In that environment, Malik Johnson learned how to make himself invisible. At 16, tall and slender, his eyes always pointed to the floor as if trying to detach himself from any trouble. Malik's mother worked 2 jobs, morning shifts at the diner and evenings cleaning offices, just to provide for her 2 children. She often told Malik's son, "Bowing your head makes the walk faster. Don't start trouble, don't draw attention. In this town, the quieter you are, the easier it is to survive." But Malik's grandfather, Raymond Johnson, taught him an entirely different philosophy. Raymond had once been a renowned boxer in his youth. Scars from decades of fights, both inside and outside the ring, still traced his hands. He would often tell Malik while they trained together in the family's small garage, "A man can only endure so much. When you're backed into a corner, you need to know how to rise. Punches can be strong, but it's the mind that wins the fight." Malik had trained with his grandfather since he was 8. He learned how to move his feet, how to lean and dodge, how to control his breath and his calm. But Malik never thought he would actually use those skills in real life. To him, fighting was like math or reading something to keep in his pocket, not something to flaunt. All Malik wanted was a quiet life, to finish school and find a way out of that small town. However, life was never as simple as he wished. Malik's younger sister, Aaliyah Johnson, just 12 years old, had recently moved up to middle school, sharing the same campus as Riverton High. Aaliyah carried innocence in her bright eyes and a stubborn personality, not yet old enough to grasp the unspoken rules of the place, and that made her the perfect target for Bradley and his crew. At first, it was just taunts in the hallway, cruel words, "Where did this freak come from?" or sneering laughs whenever Aaliyah answered wrong in class. Malik only told his sister to ignore it. He said, "They want you angry. Don't give them that chance." But Bradley wasn't one to let things go. From words, he escalated to actions, tripping Aaliyah so she'd fall, knocking books out of her hands or snatching her lunchbox and tossing it into the trash in front of everyone. Aaliyah tried to be strong, walking quickly, biting her lip to keep from crying. But Malik saw everything. He saw her small shoulders tremble whenever she passed Bradley. He saw her fingers clutching the straps of her backpack until her knuckles turned white. And then, one afternoon, things went too far. Malik had just left school, walking slowly home, his backpack slung lazily over one shoulder. The late afternoon sun cast a pale golden light over the town, stretching long, dim shadows. passing the old gas station by the intersection. Malik heard laughter, not the kind that was joyous, but the mocking kind that made his chest tighten. He quickened his pace. The sound grew clearer, echoing from a narrow alley. Malik turned in, and the blood in his veins froze. Aaliyah was cornered against a brick wall. Her face had gone pale, her eyes still trying to look defiant, but her small body trembled. In front of her stood Bradley Whitaker, tall, grinning smugly. He dangled Aaliyah's backpack high in the air, swinging it like a trophy. Around him, his three closest friends formed a circle, laughing loudly. "Well, Aaliyah," Bradley drawled, "all you have to do is say, 'Sorry. Sorry for being a freak. Sorry for trying to be different. Then I'll give your backpack back.'" Aaliyah clenched her teeth. She growled, "Keep dreaming, Bradley." His grin widened. "Wrong answer." He shoved her shoulder, not hard, but enough to send her stumbling into the rough brick wall. His friends' laughter rang out sharp as blades. Malik wasn't thinking anymore. His body moved on instinct. In a few steps he was standing between his sister and Bradley, his hand gripping Bradley's wrist tight. The alley fell silent. Bradley's eyes flickered with amusement. He raised an eyebrow, smirking. "Oh, the big brother shows up. Here to play hero." Malik's voice was low and steady. "Let my sister go." Bradley tried to yank his hand free, but Malik's grip tightened, his cold eyes locked on him. For a moment silence hung heavy in the alley. Bradley's friends stopped laughing, glancing at each other in uncertainty. Then Bradley gave a dry chuckle, lowering his voice with mockery. "Come on, Malik, hit me. Show me just how brave you are." Malik stood there, his grip tight on Bradley's wrist, his eyes like two blades stabbing deep into his opponent. For a moment the entire alley was swallowed in silence. Aaliyah pressed against her brother's back, her breathing quick and shallow, yet her eyes shone with trust. Malik had never felt so exposed. He had always been used to hiding, blending into the crowd. But today he could not stand aside. Bradley stared back, his smug smile never fading. "Well, hero, go ahead, hit me." He taunted, his voice deliberately loud so his friends could hear. Malik drew in a long breath, then let go. He grabbed Aaliyah's backpack and pulled his sister away. His back was rigid, straining to contain the rage burning in his chest. Behind him, Bradley's mocking laughter tore through the quiet afternoon. "Just as I thought, you're nothing but a coward." On the walk home, Aaliyah said nothing. She bit her lip, hurrying her steps, as if she wanted to outrun the humiliation. Malik stayed silent too, but inside him a storm raged. Each step felt like a blade twisting into his heart. He had let his sister be shamed. When they reached home, Malik tossed his backpack onto the floor. Without a word, he walked straight into the garage, the place that had once been his grandfather Raymond Johnson's ring. An old punching bag hung in the center, its cracked leather worn by years of training. Malik pulled his hoodie over his head, fists clenched. Then he began to punch. Each strike thundered like a storm. Thud, thud, thud. The bag shook violently. Malik kept hitting until his knuckles burned and his breath grew ragged. In his mind flashed Bradley's face, that smug smile, that sneering laugh. Every blow was a protest swallowed back that day. "You're hitting like you're angry at yourself," a deep voice cut in. Malik froze, sweat dripping down his forehead. Grandfather Raymond stood in the doorway, arms folded, his gaze piercing. "Grandpa!" Malik panted. Raymond stepped closer, his calloused hand resting on the bag to still its swing. "Let me guess, someone laid hands on Aaliyah today." Malik bit his lip, saying nothing, but his eyes said everything. Raymond was silent for a few moments, then slowly nodded. "I knew it. No one escapes them at that school." Malik slumped onto the wooden bench, his hands trembling. "I wanted to hit him, but I knew if I did I'd be the one in trouble, not him." Raymond pulled up a chair across from him, locking eyes with his grandson. "You did the right thing. Restraint isn't weakness. It takes more strength than throwing a punch." Malik's fists clenched. "But I feel like I failed." Aaliyah looked at me. like I wasn't strong enough to protect her. Raymond sighed, glancing at the garage walls, dented by thousands of punches from years past. Listen to me, Malik. You can't always hit back right away, but one thing's certain when the time comes. Your first punch has to make sure there's never a second. He stood motioning with his hand. Come on, get up. Start again from the basics. Malik hesitated, then peeled off his hoodie, revealing a lean, muscular frame for his age. He raised his fists into position. Raymond strapped on the pads, his eyes stern. Footwork. Control your breathing. Don't let emotions lead you. A fighter's greatest enemy isn't the opponent, it's the rage within. The training stretched on for hours. Malik punched, dodged, moved, as instructed. Each strike was powerful but disciplined. Raymond observed, then nodded. You've got the strength, Malik. But remember, strength alone isn't enough. The mind decides victory. When they finally stopped, Malik sank to the floor, sweat dripping onto the wooden boards. His grandfather handed him a water bottle and gave a firm pat on the shoulder. You did right today, but don't think it's over. Bullies like Bradley don't stop. They'll come back harder than before. When that moment comes, I want you to remember my words. Make sure your blow is the last. That night, Malik lay in his room, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. In the next room, Aaliyah slept soundly, her breathing steady. But Malik couldn't rest. In his ears still echoed Bradley's words, "You're nothing but a coward." He rolled over, eyes on the boxing gloves hanging on the wall. They were his grandfather's, worn and frayed, yet still carrying an air of dignity. Malik reached out and touched them, his palm trembling. He knew that tomorrow, next week, or whenever it happened, Bradley would be back. And next time, Malik knew he wouldn't turn away. Outside the window, Riverton lay under a quiet night. But inside Malik, a flame had been lit. He no longer wanted to be invisible. He could not let his sister live in fear any longer. From the shadows, a vow echoed in his mind. When they return, I'll be ready. The morning at Riverton High passed like any other, but Malik could clearly feel the different looks from many students. Rumors spread faster than the wind. Someone had seen him the night before, standing in front of Bradley in the alley. He hadn't thrown a punch, but just daring to face Bradley was enough to set the whole school buzzing. Malik walked with a calm face, but inside waves churned violently. He didn't want attention, but the silence had already been broken. Aaliyah walked beside him, her eyes still tense, yet glancing at her brother now and then with a fragile sense of trust. At lunch, Malik sat alone in the cafeteria. He was eating when a shadow loomed over his table. It was Bradley Whitaker, followed by his three close friends, Derek Cole and Mason. Every eye in the cafeteria instantly turned toward them. Bradley smirked, planting his hands on the table. Well, the hero of Aaliyah. Malik looked up, his gaze steady. He didn't answer. Bradley tilted his head, pretending to be impressed. I'll admit, no one's ever had the guts to hold my wrist like that. But let me make one thing clear in this school. I make the rules, and anyone who breaks them pays the price. The cafeteria fell silent. Malik set his tray down and stood. His voice was low but firm as he stared straight at Bradley. If you touch my sister again, I won't stand by. Bradley burst out laughing, the sound echoing across the cafeteria. Did you hear that Malik Johnson is threatening me? His friends joined in, laughing hysterically. Malik didn't add another word. He grabbed his backpack and walked out. But in the eyes of the other students, the image of him, standing tall against Bradley, unflinching, had already etched itself deep in their minds. That afternoon, as Malik and Aaliyah walked home, he heard footsteps behind them. He turned and his chest tightened. Bradley and his crew were following. Bradley whistled casually, tossing a ball in the air, his eyes locked on the siblings. Near the old gas station, Bradley suddenly rushed forward, blocking Aaliyah's path. He snatched her backpack again, swinging it like a toy. Aaliyah tried to grab it back but failed. "Say it, Aaliyah," Bradley sneered. "Say you're sorry for existing and I'll give it back." Aaliyah trembled, but her gaze stayed defiant. Malik stepped forward, his voice firm. "Give the backpack back." Bradley stared at him, his smirk twisting into contempt. "Or what? You take it from me." Then he shoved Aaliyah hard, sending her stumbling to the ground. In that instant, Malik couldn't hold back anymore. He lunged forward, gripping Bradley's wrist. The rest of the gang instantly closed in. Bradley sneered, "Finally ready to play, huh?" He suddenly swung a fist at Malik. But the punch was sloppy, telegraphed, driven only by anger. Malik slipped to the side, time seeming to slow. In his mind, his grandfather Raymond's voice echoed, "Don't strike wildly. Wait for the moment, and when you hit, make it count." Malik pivoted, delivering a quick, precise jab to Bradley's ribs. A sharp thud rang out. Bradley froze, his breath knocked from his chest. He staggered back, his face twisted in shock. His friends were stunned, their laughter vanishing instantly. The alley fell into dead silence. Bradley gritted his teeth, his face burning red with rage. He charged again, swinging another wild punch. But Malik was ready. He slipped aside and slammed his shoulder forward, sending Bradley crashing awkwardly into the brick wall. For a few seconds, Bradley stood frozen, eyes wide in disbelief. Never before had anyone humiliated him like this. Malik didn't press further. He stood tall, breathing, steady, eyes cold and sharp. No more punches were needed. Malik's confidence and control said it all. Bradley clutched his ribs, seething. He looked around, but his friends weren't laughing anymore. Instead, they stepped back, uncertainty in their eyes. Malik bent down to help Aaliyah up, handing her the backpack. He said nothing. Bradley snarled, "You'll pay for this, Johnson." But his voice trembled, stripped of its usual certainty. The siblings left the alley, leaving Bradley doubled over, gasping for air. The dusk swallowed his curses. Malik knew well today's fight was only the beginning. Bradley wouldn't stop. But for the first time, Malik no longer felt fear. Inside him, one truth burned clear: it was time to stop living as the invisible one. That evening, the air inside the Johnson household was heavy, almost suffocating. Aaliyah sat at the dinner table, her eyes still red, though she tried to appear strong. Malik was silent, barely touching his food. He kept his head down, fists clenched, the swelling on his knuckles still raw and visible. Their mother, after a long day of work, had no idea what had happened. As she served food, she spoke about her extra shifts, about paying the bills at the end of the month. Malik nodded, answering absent-mindedly, but his mind was stuck in the alley that afternoon. Bradley's mocking laughter, his sister's frightened eyes as she was shoved to the ground, the sneers of his friends. All of it weighed inside Malik's head like an unexploded bomb. When his mother and Aaliyah went to bed, Malik quietly stepped into the garage. The damp air mixed with the familiar smell of oil and dust. In the center of the small room, the old punching bag hung still, as if waiting for him to unleash his fury. Malik yanked his shoelaces tight, slipped on his gloves, and began. Thud, thud, thud. Each punch landed like a muffled scream he had swallowed for years. The bag shook violently, the chain squealing overhead. Malik struck with all the emotions boiling in his chest: rage, humiliation, guilt for failing to protect his sister. He hit until sweat poured down his face, until his breath came in ragged bursts, until his vision blurred with exhaustion. But the anger never drained away. "Who are you really hitting?" A deep voice rose behind him. Malik froze. Grandfather Raymond stood in the doorway, a cup of coffee in hand, his gaze not angry or reproachful, just deeply understanding. Malik lowered his head, panting. "I don't know. Maybe myself." Raymond stepped in, set the cup down on the old wooden table. and placed a rough hand gently against the swinging bag to still it. I saw it in your eyes the moment you came home. You wanted to fight back, but you knew if you did, the whole world would turn against you. Isn't that right? Malik nodded, his eyes full of conflict. I don't want my sister to think I'm a coward, but if I hit him, I'll be expelled, branded a thug. I hate this feeling. Raymond sighed and sat down on the wooden chair. His hands, though aged, were still strong, still lined with veins of steel. Malik, let me tell you something. In my life, I fought hundreds of matches, but the punch that knocked an opponent out wasn't always the strongest. It was the one thrown at the right moment. He locked eyes with his grandson. You did the right thing today. You didn't give Bradley the excuse to brand you a criminal. But he paused, his gaze turning sharp. That day will come. The day you must strike back. And when it comes, you have to make sure your blow is decisive. Not just for yourself, but for everyone he has ever bullied. Malik swallowed hard, his heart pounding. Raymond stood motioning with his hand. Come on. Up. Train with me again. Reluctantly, Malik stood and pulled his gloves tight. Raymond strapped on the pads, his voice stern. First footwork. Control the space. Don't let him corner you. Malik moved his feet, tapping rhythm across the wooden floor. Raymond nodded. Good. Now the jab. Fast, sharp, emotionless. Thud, thud. Malik's jab struck the pads clean and precise. Keep your breath steady. Don't let anger lead you. Punching isn't for satisfaction, it's to end it. They trained for over an hour. Each time Malik faltered, Raymond barked. Each time he executed correctly, Raymond nodded with approval. Finally exhausted, Malik collapsed onto the floor, sweat dripping. Raymond sat beside him and handed him a bottle of water. You have strength, Malik, but strength isn't enough. A cool head is what wins. You can't fight out of anger. You have to fight for justice. Malik looked up at his grandfather. I'm afraid. One day I won't be able to hold back. Raymond gave a thin smile, his eyes carrying decades of experience. Everyone fears that, but fear itself keeps you sharp. Remember this, Malik. When you strike back, make sure it's the last blow. Late at night, Malik returned to his room, his body sore but his mind sharper than ever. He glanced toward his sister's room. Aaliyah was sound asleep, clutching her teddy bear. Malik smiled faintly, but it quickly faded. He remembered her trembling eyes when cornered against the wall, Bradley's cruel laughter ringing in his ears. A fire blazed inside Malik's chest. He no longer wanted to live as the invisible one. On the wall, his grandfather's old boxing gloves hung silently. Malik reached out to touch them, whispering as if making a vow, I won't back down again. Outside his window, the night swallowed Riverton in darkness. But inside Malik, a flame had been lit. Not the fire of blind rage, but the fire of resolve. He knew one thing clearly: Bradley would not stop. He would return stronger and more vicious. But next time, Malik would be ready. And when that moment came, his fist would not only defend his sister, but every soul who had ever suffered in silence. 2 days after the training session in the garage, Malik could still hear his grandfather Raymond's words echoing in his head. Don't let anger control you, but when you strike back, make sure it's decisive. That morning, the atmosphere at Riverton High was tenser than usual. Rumors of the alley confrontation between Malik and Bradley had spread across the school. Some students whispered words of encouragement to Malik, while others eyed him cautiously, as if standing up to Bradley meant standing against the whole system. Aaliyah tried to act normal, but Malik could see her walking faster, her eyes darting back every few steps. He clenched his fists, telling himself, not again. I won't let it happen again. That afternoon, the back lot of the school was unusually quiet. Dry leaves crackled under the feet of students leaving for the day. Malik had just left gym class when he heard a commotion near the parking lot. His heart tightened the moment he recognized Aaliyah's cry. He sprinted, his backpack thumping against his back with every stride. When he arrived, the sight made his blood boil. Aaliyah was cornered against a fence, her backpack thrown to the ground, books scattered everywhere. Bradley stood before her, arms folded, sneering. His friends formed a circle around them, jeering with cruel delight. "We meet again," Aaliyah. Bradley smirked. "Are you going to apologize? Or are you waiting for your hero to show up?" Malik shoved his way through Bradley's friends. He crouched to gather Aaliyah's books, then placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You okay?" Aaliyah nodded, though her eyes were anxious. "Don't do anything reckless, Malik." Bradley laughed loudly, stepping forward. "Oh, here he is, the savior himself. What's your move this time?" "Grab my hand again." He shoved Malik hard in the chest. Malik staggered a step back but kept his balance. He locked eyes with Bradley, saying nothing. "Hit me!" Bradley roared. "I dare you!" In that moment, Malik felt every eye on him. His heart raced, but his mind was sharper than ever. Bradley suddenly swung his fist. Malik saw it coming, as if in slow motion. He tilted his body aside, breathing steady. Bradley's punch missed, leaving him off balance. Immediately, Malik struck back. A sharp jab landed clean into Bradley's ribs. Bradley froze, his mouth open, his breath caught in his throat. Malik didn't stop. A quick elbow nudged him off balance, followed by a firm shove that sent Bradley crashing into the chain-link fence with a metallic clang. Bradley's friends stood stunned. Their mocking smiles vanished, replaced by shock. Other students began to gather, eyes wide in disbelief. Bradley clutched his side, his face red with rage and panic. He staggered to his feet, shouting, You dare, Malik! You'll pay for this!" Malik stayed silent. He stood firm, his breathing steady, his gaze cold as ice. No words were needed. His composure alone infuriated Bradley even more. Bradley charged again, but this punch was sloppier than before. Malik easily sidestepped, gripped his shoulder, and spun him aside, shoving him down hard in front of everyone. No one laughed. No one cheered for Bradley. The air fell heavy. Whispers broke out instead. "Oh my God!" Malik just dropped Bradley. "I've never seen anyone humiliate him like that." Bradley lay on the ground, his face twisted with fury. He pushed himself up, eyes burning with hatred. "I swear, Johnson, you'll regret this day." Malik gave no reply. He turned, picked up Aaliyah's books, and walked away with her at his side, leaving Bradley and his gang frozen. On the way home, Aaliyah clung tightly to her brother's arm. "Malik, I've never seen you like that. I was scared, but I was also proud." Malik smiled faintly. "I promised you, I won't let anyone hurt you again." But deep down he knew this wasn't over. Bradley was not the kind to accept defeat. After today's blow, retaliation was certain, and it would be more brutal, more dangerous. That night, Malik sat alone in his room. His eyes lingered on the old boxing gloves hanging on the wall. In his mind, his grandfather's voice returned. "When you strike back, make sure it's the last blow." Malik whispered, "Today was only the beginning. Next time, it'll be the real fight." The fight behind the school quickly became the hottest topic around. In just one night, all of Riverton High knew that Malik Johnson had taken down Bradley Whitaker, the boy no one had ever dared to touch. Some students quietly looked at Malik with admiration. Some even nodded at him for the first time. But there were also wary, uneasy looks. Everyone knew Bradley wasn't someone to just let things go. More importantly, he was the son of the town's sheriff. On Monday morning, the school intercom crackled to life, the secretary's dry voice echoing Malik Johnson report to the principal's office immediately. The classroom fell silent. Malik gathered his books and stood. Aaliyah turned back, her eyes filled with worry. Malik gave her a reassuring smile, but deep down, he knew he was about to face a storm far greater than any punch. When he entered the principal's office, Malik immediately felt the tension. Principal Harris sat behind his desk, his face stern. But what made Malik's stomach drop was the man standing by the window, Sheriff Whitaker, Bradley's father. The sheriff was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing his police uniform, arms folded across his chest, eyes cold as steel. "Sit down," Principal Harris ordered stiffly. Malik sat, forcing himself to stay calm. Sheriff Whitaker spoke first, his voice sharp and deliberate. "You know why you're here, don't you?" Malik met his eyes. "Because I protected my sister from Bradley." The sheriff's thick brows furrowed. He gave a humorless chuckle. "Don't try to play the blame game. My son came home with bruises and a split lip, and he says you attacked him on school grounds." Malik clenched his teeth, his fists tightening. Bradley threw the first punch. Everyone there saw it. Principal Harris coughed lightly, his eyes shifting away. Sheriff Whitaker stepped forward, slamming his hand on the desk, leaning close to Malik's face. "In this town, who do you think they'll believe, a black kid or the sheriff's son?" The air in the room grew heavy, suffocating. Malik could see injustice laid bare before his eyes. "We've discussed it," Principal Harris said firmly, and decided. "You are suspended indefinitely." Malik shot up from his seat. "What, I'm suspended for defending myself?" Sheriff Whitaker sneered. "You should be grateful I'm not pressing assault charges. Keep arguing and I'll make your life hell." Malik trembled, not from fear but from the rage boiling inside. He knew he couldn't win here. The system was rigged to protect Bradley no matter what he did. He drew a deep breath, swallowing his fury, then turned for the door. His hand touched the knob when Sheriff Whitaker delivered one final blow, his voice dripping arrogance. "Remember this, Johnson. In Riverton, the law is mine." Malik paused for a moment. He didn't look back, but his eyes blazed. In his heart, he whispered, "Your law is about to change." That afternoon, Malik returned home, throwing his backpack to the floor and sinking onto the porch steps. Grandfather Raymond quietly stepped out, coffee cup in hand. "Suspended, huh?" he asked, his voice calm as if he had already known. Malik nodded, fighting back tears. Bradley got nothing. Everyone saw him throw the first punch, but nobody dared speak up. They only believed his father. Raymond stayed silent for a while, then rested a rough hand on his grandson's shoulder. "That's exactly what I warned you about. You're not just fighting a spoiled boy, you're fighting the whole system." Malik buried his face in his hands. "So what am I supposed to do?" "Sit and take it." His grandfather gazed out at the empty road where the sunset painted the town in gold. "You can't fight a system with your fists, but you can fight with something else. The truth." Malik looked up, his eyes caught between hope and doubt. "The truth." Raymond nodded. "You're not the only one. Find the others who've suffered like you. When one person speaks out, they silence him. But when a whole group speaks, no one can ignore it." Malik fell quiet. Faces flashed in his mind: Eric with his broken nose, Maya who had been shoved down the stairs, Jordan who had transferred schools out of fear. He clenched his fists. "If they're willing to stand up too?" Raymond smiled faintly, pride flickering in his eyes. "Then you won't just be fighting for your sister anymore. You'll be fighting for everyone." That night, Malik lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Slowly, a decision formed in his heart. He picked up his phone, scrolling through his contacts. Familiar names appeared, those who had vanished after falling victim to Bradley. Malik drew in a deep breath, then dialed the first number. The ringing filled his ear, his heart pounding. When Eric's voice finally came through on the other end, Malik spoke slowly. "Eric, I need you, not just for me, but for all of us." The phone in Malik's hand trembled lightly. On the other end, Eric Jennings, the student Bradley had broken the nose of last year, stayed silent for a long time before finally answering. His voice was hoarse and hesitant. "You really want to go against him?" "Malik, you know the consequences. Malik closed his eyes, his hand tightening around the phone. I can't let him keep going. Not just for Aaliyah, but for everyone who's been through what you and I went through. I need you. There was a pause. Then Eric's voice came again, heavy but steady. All right, I'll help. I've stayed silent for too long. That first call was like a spark. Malik kept reaching out to other names. Maya Green, the girl Bradley had pushed down the stairs, breaking her arm. At first, Maya trembled and refused Malik. You don't understand. My family once complained, but the only answer we got was kids fooling around. I don't want to relive it. Malik lowered his voice, speaking gently. Maya, you've lived in fear long enough. You deserve to feel safe. We all do. After a moment, Maya broke down crying over the phone. All right, if you're really brave enough, then I'll be brave too. The next day, Malik arranged a small meeting in an abandoned storage room behind the community center. The room was dim with thin beams of light slipping through cracks in the door. Eric was already there, his nose still bearing an old scar. Maya arrived, her hands trembling as she clutched a water bottle. Then Jordan came, the boy who had to transfer schools because of Bradley's torment. Finally, Charlie Sims, thin but with eyes burning bright. They sat in a circle, silent at first. The air was thick with tension. Malik drew in a deep breath, then stood. We all know why we're here. Bradley has bullied every one of us, and he always gets away with it because his father is the sheriff. But if we stay silent, he'll never stop. Eric nodded, his voice rasping. Last year, he broke my nose just because I refused to give him lunch money. I thought I'd die if I stayed in that school. Maya wiped her tears, her hands still shaking. He shoved me down the stairs. My family tried to sue, but nothing came of it. I've lived with that nightmare every single day. Jordan clenched his fists. I had to leave the school I loved because of him. But even after I left, he still haunted me. Charlie looked around, his voice firm. I can't even count how many times he called me trash. I was scared, but today, I don't want to be afraid anymore. Malik looked at each face, seeing scars of pain, but also sparks of hope. He took another deep breath, then said, Alone we're weak, but together he can't silence us all. We have to make everything public, every story, every scar. Maya lifted her head, her voice shaky but gaining strength. But who will believe us? He's got the whole system behind him. Malik pulled out his phone and opened a short video. The clip was shaky, but the sound was clear. Bradley mocking Aaliyah books hitting the ground, and then his own voice shouting at Malik. Hit me, Johnson, followed by Bradley's first punch. The room fell silent. Everyone looked at each other, their breathing heavy. We have proof, Malik said. Not just words, truth they can't deny. If we speak together, the whole town will have to listen. Eric nodded firmly. Yes, no one can say kids fooling around anymore. Charlie slammed his hand on the wooden table. I'm in. It's time to end this nightmare. Jordan swallowed hard. Me too. But Malik, are you sure you can handle the pressure? They'll come after you first. Malik met his eyes, his voice calm. I've already started, and I won't stop. They all agreed, in unison. A small movement was born in that shabby room. No longer isolated victims, they had become a community. A group of students determined to stand against the boy who had haunted their lives for years. When everyone left, Malik lingered alone. He stared at the thin stream of light spilling through the cracks, determination swelling in his chest. He knew the days ahead would be hard, but for the first time he didn't feel alone. On the walk home, Malik remembered his grandfather Raymond's words, "You can't fight the system with fists, but you can fight it with truth." And now he had found allies. That night, Malik sat by his bedroom window, moonlight casting across his face of resolve. He opened a small notebook, writing down a list of names, stories, and evidence. He knew that step by step their group would force Riverton to confront the truth it had ignored for so long. And as he closed the page, Malik whispered, "His game is over. Now it's our turn to begin." The abandoned room behind the community center was no longer the gloomy place it once was. Every evening, Malik and his friends gathered there. On the old wooden table, phones, papers, and stories long buried in silence were finally brought into the light. Malik set his phone on the table, playing the video he had recorded when Bradley attacked Aaliyah. The group sat in absolute silence, hearing only their heavy breathing as Bradley's voice rang out in the clip, "Hit me, Johnson, hit me." And then it was him who struck first. Maya clutched her arms, trembling slightly. If this video goes public, he'll have no way to deny it. Charlie frowned, his voice heavy with worry. "But where will we post it? If we hand it to the teachers or the principal, they'll erase it. This system only protects Bradley." Malik nodded. "That's exactly why we have to put it before the public. Not just the school, this whole town has to know. Once people see the evidence, even his father can't cover it up." Eric tapped his fingers on the table, his eyes thoughtful. "Social media. If we spread the video online, it'll go beyond their control." Jordan bit his lip. "But will anyone step forward to confirm it? They could just claim the video was edited." Malik opened his notebook where he had written down every story. "That's why we all have to speak up. Not just one of us, but all of us. If 5 people, 10 people, 20 people come forward, who would dare say we're all lying?" Maya glanced around the group, her eyes timid but determined. "If we do this, we'll become targets. Our families could be dragged into it too." Malik nodded slowly. "I know. But if we stay silent, he'll keep ruining other kids' lives. Aaliyah is only 12. My sister has already endured this. I can't let the next generation suffer the same." A long silence followed. Then Eric clenched his fist and knocked it lightly against the table. "All right, I'll speak. It's time." All eyes turned to Malik. He felt the weight pressing down on his shoulders. He wasn't just leading a group of students, he was leading a movement. Tomorrow we'll record each person's testimony. Every story will be in the video. We're not only accusing Bradley, but also the school's cover-ups. Jordan asked anxiously, "What if they find us first?" Malik exhaled slowly, his gaze firm. "Then we have to stay hidden. No one outside this group can know the plan." That evening, after everyone left, Malik lingered alone. He watched the video again on his phone. In the clip, the image of Aaliyah being cornered made his chest tighten. Malik knew that once it was released, there would be no turning back. Grandfather Raymond walked in, flashlight in hand. "You're still here," Malik nodded. "I have the video. If we spread it, the whole town will know the truth." Raymond sat beside him, his eyes half worried, half proud. "You know the consequences, don't you? When the truth comes out, those in power will do everything they can to destroy you." Malik met his grandfather's eyes. "I know. But if I don't, we'll keep being trampled. You always told me when you throw a punch, make sure it's the last one. This will be my punch." That night, Malik barely slept. He drafted a plan, dividing tasks among the group, who would share their story, who would keep the video, who would handle the release. Every detail had to be perfect because even one mistake could bring the whole plan crashing down. The next morning they gathered again in the old room. Eric sat before the phone camera recounting the day Bradley broke his nose. His voice trembled, but his eyes shone. Maya followed, telling of the time she was shoved down the stairs. Tears streamed down her face, but she did not hide. Jordan, Charlie, one by one, each of them bravely spoke up. Malik was the last. He looked straight into the camera, his voice steady and deep. "We're not afraid anymore. This is the truth, and we will make sure all of Riverton knows." When the recording session ended, the room felt heavy but filled with hope. They had put everything on the line. Malik slipped on his headphones, reviewing the entire video once more. He knew the moment of going public was drawing near, but then a strange message appeared on his phone. "I know what you're doing, Johnson. You'd better stop before this goes too far." No sender name, just a blocked number. A chill ran down Malik's spine. He knew Bradley had caught the scent of their plan. The day of the school-wide assembly arrived faster than Malik expected. Rumors of an emergency hearing spread through every class, and everyone knew it was connected to the fight between Malik and Bradley. The gymnasium was packed with students, parents, and teachers. The atmosphere was heavy tense as everyone waited to see how the system would respond. Malik sat in the back row with his friends, Eric, Maya, Jordan, and Charlie. Aaliyah sat close to her brother, her hands gripping the edge of her seat, eyes fixed on the stage where the principal's desk stood ready. At the center of the gym, Sheriff Whitaker and Bradley sat in the seats of honor. Bradley folded his arms, his face still marked with fading bruises, but the mocking smirk remained, as if he was certain victory was already his. Principal Harris stepped up to the podium, his voice straining for calm. "We are gathered today to address recent events involving school violence. Our responsibility is to ensure the safety of all students." Sheriff Whitaker cut him off, his booming voice filling the hall. "Safety, my son was attacked right on school grounds, in front of dozens of witnesses. A thug targeted him, and now my family's honor is being smeared." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Bradley lifted his chin high, looking smug. Malik shot to his feet. Every eye turned toward him. His heart pounded, but his voice was strangely calm. "You say I attacked Bradley. What about what he did to my sister, to Eric, to Maya, to Jordan, to Charlie, to all the others in this school?" The hall fell into stunned silence. Malik walked forward, his eyes locked on the principal. "For years we pretended not to see. We let him torment others and called it kids playing around. Today the truth will no longer be buried." Maya rose from her seat, her voice shaky but ringing clear. "Bradley pushed me down the stairs. I broke my arm. My family complained, but the school stayed silent." Eric stepped forward, pulling his shirt collar to reveal the scar on his nose. "He broke my nose just because I refused to give him lunch money." Jordan followed, his voice catching. "I had to leave the school I loved, leave my friends because no one would protect me from him." Charlie gripped the microphone, eyes blazing. "We won't be silent anymore. Today we're telling everything." Sheriff Whitaker leapt to his feet, his face crimson. "These kids are making it all up. This is a conspiracy to slander my son. Don't let yourselves be fooled." Malik didn't flinch. He pulled out his phone and connected it to the gym's big screen. A video began to play, Bradley's taunting voice, Aaliyah's sobs, then the very first punch thrown by Bradley himself. The gym held its breath. The sounds echoed undeniable. When the clip ended, silence fell like a weight. Bradley jumped up shouting, "That's fake, the video's edited." But his voice shook, his eyes darting desperately for support. Parents in the audience began to murmur. Teachers exchanged uneasy glances. Dozens of students stood and shouted, "We saw it. We know what he did." Principal Harris fixed his eyes on the sheriff, his voice firmer than ever. "Bradley Whitaker is suspended indefinitely pending investigation. This school board will no longer ignore the evidence." Sheriff Whitaker slammed his hand on the table, roaring, "You dare defy me." But this time, no one rallied behind him. The entire gym stared with outrage. Parents whispered to each other all these years, "We've stayed silent too long." Bradley's face drained of color. For the first time, he realized he was no longer untouchable. He looked around, but even his closest friends stepped back, unwilling to stand with him. Malik walked forward, his eyes cold, his voice calm but cutting. "You said the law was yours. But today we proved that truth is stronger, and truth cannot be buried." The gym erupted in applause and cheers. Aaliyah ran into her brother's arms. tears streaming down her face, but her smile radiant. Sheriff Whitaker dragged Bradley out of the gym in fury, but the sight of father and son was no longer one of power, it was one of defeat, small and alone. As the crowd dispersed, Eric clapped Malik hard on the shoulder. "You did it! You made the whole town listen." Maya smiled through her tears. "For the first time, I'm not afraid anymore." Malik looked up at the tall ceiling of the gym. His chest felt lighter than ever. This wasn't the victory of one person, but of unity. He knew the journey wasn't over, but from this day forward, Riverton High would never be the same. The morning after the gymnasium had erupted in thunderous applause, the atmosphere at Riverton High was completely different. The hallways, once filled with fear, now buzzed with new whispers. Students talked about the truth, about the video, about Bradley's downfall. Malik walked into school with Aaliyah. Eyes turned toward them, but this time there was no pity, no fear. Instead, there was respect. Many students nodded in greeting. Some whispered, "Thank you." Aaliyah smiled, walking more confidently than ever. She no longer bowed her head, no longer clutched her backpack in fear. In the office, Principal Harris held a special meeting with the teachers. He declared, "No one, not even the sheriff's son, stands above the rules. From now on, any act of school violence will be dealt with openly." The announcement shook the entire school. Teachers nodded in agreement. Students sighed with relief. A new era was beginning at Riverton High. Sheriff Whitaker, meanwhile, was silent. Pressured by parents and the local press, he no longer dared to publicly defend his son. Bradley was suspended indefinitely and eventually had to transfer schools. On the day he left, no one came to see him off. No one cried. All that remained was a lonely figure leaving the place he once thought was his personal kingdom. Back in the familiar garage, Malik once again stood before the punching bag, but this time he didn't punch out of anger. Each strike was steady, deliberate. Grandfather Raymond sat on the wooden chair, sipping coffee, pride glinting in his eyes. "You did it, Malik," he said slowly. "You didn't just protect your sister, you protected an entire community." Malik wiped his sweat, exhaling softly. "I was afraid, but then I realized nothing changes if we stay silent." Raymond nodded. "Exactly, and now you've left a mark that no one can erase." That weekend, Eric, Maya, Jordan, and Charlie visited Malik's home. They sat around the table sharing the relief of no longer living in fear. Maya smiled, her voice trembling but full of joy. "For the first time, I don't feel haunted by Bradley anymore." Eric nodded. "I stayed silent for too long, but now, I'm proud I stood with you all." Jordan looked at Malik with gratitude in his eyes. "Without you, we'd still be bowing our heads." Malik shook his head, smiling. "It wasn't just me. It was all of us. Unity is what won." The next day, a local newspaper ran the headline, "Riverton High Students Rise Against Bullying. Truth Exposed After Years of Silence." The article spread not just in town, but to neighboring areas. Parents sent letters thanking the students for their courage. Some schools even invited Malik and his friends to share their story to inspire their students. Aaliyah read the article, her eyes sparkling. "See, we've changed more than just one school." Malik smiled, but deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning. One evening, Malik sat on the porch watching the golden sunset drape over the town. Aaliyah leaned her head on his shoulder, whispering, "I'm not afraid anymore. All thanks to you." Malik wrapped an arm around his sister, replying softly, "I promised you, I'll never let you stand alone." From inside the house, Grandfather Raymond looked out, a gentle smile tugging at his lips. He knew the flame Malik had lit would continue burning, guiding young people who dared to stand against injustice. That night before bed, Malik opened his notebook to the last page. He wrote a simple line heavy with meaning. "True strength doesn't lie in the punch, but in the courage to stand for justice." He closed the notebook, setting it beside his grandfather's old boxing gloves. Then he turned off the light and drifted into deep sleep, his heart more at peace than ever. Tomorrow, Riverton High would buzz with the usual noise of any school. But one thing had changed forever. No one feared Bradley Whitaker anymore, and the name Malik Johnson would always be remembered as the boy who turned pain into strength and silence into a voice for an entire generation. Thus, the story of Malik Johnson and his sister Aaliyah has come to a close. From a boy who always tried to stay invisible to avoid trouble, Malik became a guiding flame, daring to confront the most powerful bully in school. But he didn't fight just for himself. He fought for everyone who had ever been silenced, overlooked, or trampled. Today's story reminds us of one truth. True strength does not lie in the fist, but in the courage to stand up for justice. If you believe that truth can always triumph over lies, and that the courage of one person can change an entire community, then give this video a like. Share your feelings in the comments. What moment in Malik and Aaliyah's journey impressed you the most? Have you ever faced a situation where you had to stand up to defend what was right? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the dramatic, inspiring stories we bring to you every day. And while waiting for the next video, check out the other stories right beside this one. Trust me, you definitely won't want to miss them. See you again on the next journey where justice and hope will continue to burn bright.